Welcome back everyone to a new video. Today I'm going back to One Death Equals Reset, which is actually quite a liked genre on my channel, and it's something that I quite enjoy as well, and something that's actually setting me apart from other Nuzlockers. It's a pretty crazy challenge to do. Now, the last time I did this, I did Renegade Platinum, One Death Equals Reset and Hardcore plus Nuzlocke rules, and I made it past Gym 8. I failed right before the end of the game. But if you thought attempting this challenge in Renegade Platinum was crazy, you haven't seen anything yet. People think that Pokemon Blaze Black and Volt White are hard games, and they're definitely Driano's hardest games. But the game of this video, Pokemon Vintage White, is on a whole nother level. This game is very hard by most people's standards. It's actually approaching Emerald Kaizo tiers of difficulty. Vintage White is very different from a lot of other ROM hacks that I've played. Not just the difficulty. Its main gimmick is that in the main game, you can only use Pokemon from Gen 1 to 3, and certain Gen 4 evolutions like Electivire and Magmortar and such. One really big thing is that the Pokemon changes in this game are pretty wild, and they're actually really fun to play with. It does more than even Renegade Platinum, and it probably has as many crazy changes as like Radical Red, where the Pokemon are just completely different. Like, for example, Kingler is now Water Steel with a pretty significant stat buff, and now Kecleon is insanely powerful. It becomes normal Ghost, and it gets adaptability, which is just crazy. Like, normal Ghost typing, that is some really interesting stuff. And there's so many other changes. What I do really like about this game is that this game was made specifically for Nuzlocking. It was made with the hardcore Nuzlocking community in mind. So EVs are automatically removed from this game. The developer actually tells you just flat out, just hack in rare candies, the game was designed around this. Unfortunately, for better or worse, because of the difficulty, this is one of those games where you have to use docks. If you want any chance of Nuzlocking this game, like, you just have to use it. Don't bother going into this game blind, that will not work out for you. And yeah, the difficulty, it's harder than any Driano ROM hack for sure. It's been stated that if Volt White was a 6 out of 10 and Emerald Kaizo was a 10 out of 10, this game would be about an 8.5 out of 10. And this was actually said before all the updates, which made the game harder, by the way. So now, this game is it's close to Emerald Kaizo, though it's definitely much easier than Emerald Kaizo. This game, one of the reasons why I like it so much is because it's Emerald Kaizo, but way more fair. It's like Emerald Kaizo in terms of the opponent's power levels, but at the same time you also have a lot of powerful stuff yourself, and it doesn't rely on stupid bullshit like Bright Powder and Quick Claw abuse. It does tone down the RNG a lot, so with good preparation and good skills in Nuzlocker, you can definitely get by this game, and I have beaten it twice in regular hardcore Nuzlocke rules. But in this challenge, I'll be seeing how hard this game is. How far can I get through this game without a single death? Is One Death Equals Reset even possible? So yes, if I lose them on, the video ends, the run is over. Any other rules? Well, it's basically hardcore plus Nuzlocke rules. I do remove EV values, but this game removes EV values by default, so you can never get any EV values, which is a pretty good feature. Also, I will be allowing setup moves in this game. However, I made a specific rule to limit setup, so I'm not allowed to exceed +2 on any of my mons, because I feel that becomes really broken at that time, especially if you're able to abuse Gyarados. The only exception is like speed boost, I guess, because that's something that you just can't control. So with these rules established, let's actually start this run and see how far I can get. Definitely expect a challenge, and I will say getting past even Gym 2 without any deaths is not easy, so let's go. So the game pretty much begins and I pick my starter. Now obviously this time the starters are the Hoenn ones, which are very interesting, and these have gotten changed as well. Now, people say, which is the best starter? Absolutely, 100%, without question, Torchic. Easily the best starter. Not only did Torchic get +10 attack and +5 speed, but speed boost makes it unbelievably good. Definite S tier, one of the strongest mons in the game. Mudkip is good, but it's just not amazing. If you can abuse Swift Swim, which you can't do anymore because the patch removed Drizzle is an ability for you, but you can still use Rain Dance as a move. That still requires a lot of setup. to do and is quite inconvenient. Mudkip can work, and I did end up picking Mudkip this run because I wanted to try something else apart from using Torchic every single time. But yeah, Torchic is definitely best. Treecko, though Treecko is pretty strong late game, I would say it becomes like A+ tier, but still weaker than Blaziken. Early game, picking Treecko is just pain. It does horribly against the early game, and even with the really good encounters, it still makes things a lot more RNG dependent than it needs to, so you pick Torchic. Mudkip, however, can work. So what I do when I start the Nuzlocke is I save state a really good starter, just so I don't have to bother resetting 100 times to get it again, and I do reset until I get the Route 1 encounter I want. As long as I get a good Route 1 encounter, in a Route 2 encounter that isn't garbage, that's it, that's all you need to start off your run. Like, for example, Leddyba or Beautyfly, they're really bad Route 1 encounter. I mean, Ledian can be decent, but some of the Route 1 encounters are way better than others. I settled for Tentacruel, which I think is the best Route 1 encounter that you can get. Or at least one of, top 3. Tentacruel, it evolves at level 25 now, so you can get it for Lenora. It got a pretty nice buff to its stats, so it now has the same stats as a starter, and it's one of the very few mons that gets access to Toxic Spikes. Toxic is a pretty broken move, and it's so abusable that the developer Suicune actually made an update to move the Toxic TM to the post game, because it is pretty crazy, especially considering how the AI never switches out. But because Tentacruel is literally one of like 3 Pokemon in the main game that gets access to Toxic Spikes, which can basically Toxic the entire team, it's just crazy. Such a good mon, so I pick that. Then I have my first boss battle against Bianca, and that was pretty easy. You shouldn't have that much issue with it. Cheren can be pretty annoying, and there is going to be some dice roll on it. You do get, with Mudkip, the guaranteed Ponyta gift in Aquilama Town, and Ponyta is pretty strong, but as long as you don't get crit by Cheren's Eevee, you should be fine. Remember, it's got adaptability. But yeah, there's not too much. You just need to see what encounter you get and hope you can get past them. Now, Gym 1 is up, and with Mudkip, this is also not too hard, unless all of your encounters are weak to grass. Even if you do have encounters that are weak to grass, the Leech Roomish doesn't actually have a grass move, so that's kind of easy to handle. Ponyta does really well against this team, so it's really not that much of an issue. I'm not going to commentate like Gym 1 in the battles before that, because they're really not worth talking about. I will be talking about all the other boss battles though, as after this point they do get quite noteworthy. Apart from the Cheren battle after this gym, I do skip that because the level cap is now 28 for Lenora, so you can just over level them to the point where you're just not a threat. N, however, in the Queen City, can be quite a threat. You do over level him considerably because of the level cap, but the fact that this is a double battle and also he's got pretty powerful mons can make this a little bit RNG reliant even with good mons, and you do have to over level him by quite a bit to ensure you have a good chance of winning. His Executor is very powerful. Executor got a big stat buff and it hits a lot of things in my party super effectively. I do get all my other encounters, and you don't get too many encounters, by the way. By this point for Lenora you can have like what, 7 or 8, so you do need to be very careful. I do like using Tentacruel to take out the Arcanine. Keep in mind you will need your gems like water gems and such. They're really important and they're farmable at this point, so I just hack them in instead. My strategy against N was to pray that Ninetales did not go for Drought. Then I had Quagsire in specifically to bait out a grass move from Executor, because Executor will only see kill on Quagsire, so if I know it's going to go for a grass move, I can just switch in something that resists it easily. This is done just to ensure that my Tentacruel is safe and can outspeed and get a free attack off an Executor. Then I can just destroy it next turn. Once the Executor goes down, you should be fine, though keep in mind that Hitmontop and N's team can be a little bit annoying. It's got Pursuit, which, you know, in Nuzlocke, Pursuit can just troll you really hard, so be careful for that. But as long as you have a decent strategy for this, you should be fine. Now, the first really difficult boss battle, this is quite an RNG fest, depending on what mons you have, Lenora, because you don't have that many encounters, and Lenora's team is very strong. Combuskin does make this a little bit easier, as Combuskin is quite useful, Marshtomp is useful too. Grovyle doesn't really do anything, so if you pick Grovyle, good luck for this fight, you will need it. You better have gotten good encounters, but this is one of the many reasons why I like resetting for Route 1 Tentacool. Tentacool, we can start abusing it right away. She leads up with Lickitung, but all I need Tentacool to do is set up 2 Toxic Spikes. If I can set up 2 Toxic Spikes, and I can take down Lickitung safely, I basically won the battle. As long as I have good pivots for this other Mons and Lenora's team like Girafarig, you basically just stall out her entire team as she has no way of dealing with Toxic Spikes. In no form of status removal. So, get the Toxic Spikes, then unfortunately, the Lickitung, the AI on it can be really sussy. It can be a real sussy backup, and it has used self-destruct at full health. Sometimes it's used self-destruct. Turn 1, it's done that to me I think twice already. So I had no choice but to attempt to dodge a crit, and it did in fact go for self-destruct. I could have used Kingler, which is a steel type, but I really did not want the Lickitung to go for knockoff, which it can do, knock off its leftovers. I think I would recommend sending in a steel type to deal with the Lickitung, as it's probably the safest way to handle it. Had I gotten a crit, the run would have been over, but thank God I dodged that 1 crit, because now the battle's basically over. Judging how hard this battle is, I think dodging 1 critical hit to ensure a safe victory is actually like a good thing to do, because if I'm not going for the risky Toxic Spike setup strategy where you are vulnerable, theoretically, to a critical hit self-destruct, if I don't match set up my Toxic Spikes, I will most likely have to dodge a crit later on anyways against her powerhouses like Girafarig, so I feel the risk was worth it. But, yep, once I get the setup I need with Toxic Spikes, I just win. Girafarig is like the main threat of her team because it's a special attacker. It's really powerful for that point in the game, but you can easily pivot on it. I know that it's going to use Magical Leaf on my Marshtomp, which is Eviolite by the way, is that's the only move that can kill in 1 hit from this range, so knowing it's going to use Magical Leaf, I can easily just pivot into something that resists it, like Xatu. Then on Xatu, I know that it's going to use Psychic. This is because I gave it a Chilling Berry to make it so Tri-Attack only does half the damage, meaning that Psychic is actually a stronger move, so I manipulated the Girafarig into using Psychic, which allows me to just pivot in a Dark type. Then you could just pivot with Mychena and Kecleon, because it's going to use a normal move with Mychena. Then Kecleon is normal Ghost, which is a really funny typing, and it obviously has to use Psychic, so you just pivot back and forth until it gets Toxic Stalled. Once a Girafarig goes down, assuming you didn't get extremely unlucky with crits, which even then that shouldn't really happen with this team that I've got here, you basically won the damage. Vigoroth and Lenora's Kecleon literally cannot touch my Kecleon. They have nothing to hit a normal Ghost type, which is really funny. They only have like normal Ghost and fighting coverage. So yeah, that's a really funny thing. She just gets absolutely destroyed. She basically switches in her Persian also on my Kecleon, just letting me destroy it. And because the Persian has a lacking tail because it likes to use trick strategies, that just doesn't work. So Lenora basically just froze this battle. The only mon on her team that can even do anything to me is Slacking, which has Slow Start, which under normal circumstances would be absolutely terrifying, but because it's toxic, by the time it gets off its Slow Start and finally gets its act together, it's probably going to be dead. And the best thing about this is that once its HP goes below half, the AI, they really like using healing moves like Slack Off, so it happens a lot when the AI will just keep healing themselves, but then they'll keep taking toxic damage. That just puts them back to where they were, and the toxic damage will actually just rack up even more. Kingler is the flipping star of the show. This thing is plus defense nature with shell armor. It's water steel. It's absolutely incredible. This is literally one of the best encounters you can possibly get in this game. It's not that easy to get at this point in the game, though, so if you get it, you're very lucky. If it's sheer force, it's still pretty good. Really good for this gym, but not as good as it would be with shell armor. But yeah, I did get really lucky, especially with the Kecleon. So, fortunately for me, this Lenora battle is really easy, though a lot of people will be really struggling. Now, I will be showing the boss battles, but that being said, the thing about this game that makes it really hard, just like Emerald Kaizo, is that most of the normal battles, the regular trainers, are very close to boss battles in terms of power level, and some of the regular battles are actually harder than boss battles, and there are definitely a lot of close calls that won't be shown in this video, because if I showed every single close call in this run that happened on my Twitch streams, this video would be like, I don't know, 3 hours long or something. But here's one close call against the Team Plasma Grunt right before unlocking Berg's gym, when this Skarmory, which is now a special attacker by the way, his special attack got mutual buffed. It started using like agility and nasty plots, and I did not have a good answer for this. There was barely anything I could have done, and my only way of beating it was to yawn it, then have Kecleon dodge crits from a high critical hit rate move and beat it with adaptability moves, and thankfully this worked, though there's a very good chance this could have backfired. Unfortunately, because you don't get that many encounters early game. Some mons will just be very hard for you to counter, and yeah, you just have to accept that. Combustion would have helped here, but at least I got through this safely. Now, next up is Gym 3, and thankfully this is easier than Lenora. Lenora is probably one of the harder gyms in this game, I would say. So things do get better from here on out. This is kind of like Volt White as well, where you do kind of have Purgatory to some extent, but after that you do get a lot more encounters. Now, luckily because I caught Yanmega in Pinwheel Forest, this battle's actually really easy, especially just like in Volt White you can get a Fossil, and I get Armaldo, which now evolves at level 30. With this team here, I easily win against Berg, even though it's a double battle. Yanmega with Speed Boost can just deal a lot of damage. It also uses Protect to bait out Thunder from Volbeat. And the best thing is that Volbeat and Illumise, they usually don't attack turn 1. Illumise likes to use Quiver Dance a lot. So you could take advantage of this and use Armaldo to use Rock Gem Rock Slide, which always KOs Illumise and almost takes out Volbeat, as Volbeat is quite bulky in this game. But it's actually really good because next turn, Yanmega will come out. So I could just Ancient Power Berg's Yanmega because I've already got Speed Boost, then Armaldo can just kill the Volbeat. This works really well. If you have Combustion with Speed Boost, Combustion plus Armaldo works really well in this battle also. You definitely want to use Protect to pivot. Heracross is definitely a threat in this battle, and that thing is not to be taken lightly. However, luckily for me, Ear Cutter with Flying Gem is just enough to KO Heracross, which is very fortunate. If you have Combustion, you could use like Pluck on it, which will two-shot it. But you do not want to take a Skill Link hit from Heracross, that thing can be really strong. And the Scizor likes a Sword Stance most of the times anyways, but by the time it gets up its Sword Stance, you could just beat it down really easily, because you have 2 free turns to attack it, and at this point you basically win. Dustox does very little. It's like a Toxic Stalling set, but in a double battle, Toxic Stalling just isn't that good, so at that point you just win very easily. This battle is less encounter reliant than Lenora, particularly if you pick Torchic, because you're guaranteed Torchic and Armaldo anyways, which both put in a lot of work. So that's pretty good, and we're now out of Purgatory, which is very nice. So there's quite a few more boss battles to go. In a way, this game gets a little bit boss rushy. But the next one here is Bianca, and Bianca, she's got some strong mons. The good thing is that because the level cap is quite high now, the game is really generous with it, and you can overlevel Bianca by quite a bit. She does lead off with Banette, and Banette is a massive powerhouse in this game. It is really strong. I guess it was kind of given a big buff to kind of mirror its mega form, I guess. But this thing is Prankster and Will-O-Wisp. The good thing is that it's only got a dual stab, and anyone here who remembers Gen 5 will remember Steel types are the absolute shit in Gen 5. They're so good. They just wall out everything. So any Steel type could theoretically wall out Banette. I use Shell Armor Kingler, which completely destroys it. I give it rest, and my strategy is just keep stalling out the Banette, then beat it down. So I'll beat down a Banette when I'm at really high health, which is pretty simple way to deal with it. I did think about PP stalling it, then I tried it, then I realized, oh wait, I don't actually have enough PP for that, but yeah, PP stalling is a very good strategy. You can also intimidate the Banette, which works incredibly well with Shell Armor, because you're not going to get crit anyways, so once the Banette's really weak, Kingler could just beat it while being at full health, which is really nice. She also has Meganium, which is a grass psychic type with filter, and has a pretty significant stat buff. Now you don't want to mess with that, but Kecleon can handle it very well because it's got really good stats with adaptability and priority, and the level advantage just works really well. Bianca's Blaziken because I've got Swampert, and this can be handled by my own Swampert because of the level advantage, though be careful that in later fights Blaziken can use Sword Stance, so you'll probably want like a Gyarados or something to handle that. Then her Phailomon Credilli could just get pummeled by like Tentacruel or Kingler. Pretty simple. The next Chern fight is not so simple, though he only has 4 Mons. This is a double battle, and you all know if you played Volt White, double battles, they're quite Pepica. You know, they're quite sussy. There can be quite a bit of RNG. The one good thing about this game, I will say, compared to Volt White, is that the AI in this game is significantly better. So the AI, usually, 90% of the time, the AI does behave like it does in Emerald Kaizo. It behaves like you would expect it to behave. Baiting strategies work really well, and it's much easier to predict what moves the AI will do. Sometimes the AI does do stupid stuff, like they use a move that's objectively weaker than another move, but it's definitely an improvement over standard Gen 5 AI. What I would do in this battle, especially if you pick Mudkip, because Chern's team changes quite a lot depending on what starter you have. If you pick Mudkip, he's got Jolteon and Houndoom, both of which are very strong special attackers. I would probably do some kind of baiting strategy, so lead off with a Mon that can bait out moves from Jolteon, then have something else that can deal damage. Yanmega's good because it's always dead to an attack from both of them, so it will always be attacks from both of them, so have it use Protect, then I use my Vibrava that I caught in the desert to deal some damage. Then next turn, the AI will target Yanmega again, so I just switch into something that can sponge the attacks, like Quagsire, and then that means Vibrava gets another turn to use Earthquake and just KO them. So that means there's only 2 Mons left. Chern in this run has a Sceptile, and Sceptile is pretty strong. It's not that powerful. It's basically Blaziken at home in this game. So certain things like Yanmega, Fortress, Dustox, and Kingler, which I have, can just Walt out pretty well. Like, remember, Kingler's a Steel type. And once the Sceptile's down, the battle's basically over. And yes, Snorlax is strong, but at this point, you just gang up on it. You know, you're quite a few levels higher. No biggie. So, this point... So now, we're just about to challenge Gym 4. But right before that, we have another end battle. And thankfully, this end battle is much easier than the previous one and a lot less RNG reliant. He does have a Sand team this time, which is kind of saucy. But leads off with Steelix and Tyranitar. It's kind of weird how Steelix has Sandstream and Tyranitar has Intimidate. But if you lead off with, like, for example, a good fighting type like Blaziken that can just KO one of them and just have a good water type with special attacking moves that can one-shot Steelix, that works. In this battle, I go for rain strategies, so I have the Mega Protect to bait out rock moves and just set up Rain Dance with Quagsire, and because my Swampert has Swift Swim and I've got several good water types like Choice Scarf, Gyarados, you just win the rest of the battle pretty easily. He only has 4 Mons, so this battle is reasonably easy. It's one of the easier boss fights of the game, so I will gloss over this. The next boss fight, however, is not one of the easiest ones. Well, it can be, but it is very encounter reliant. Elisa, and just like Watson and Emerald Kaizo, Lightning Rod is very, very important. Not Volt Absorb is nice, but Lightning Rod is very, very good. And this can be quite ability reliant. This is a double battle, and if you don't have certain encounters, this fight can be hard. You really, really want Lightning Rod Goldeen, which is a pretty common encounter, but it's not guaranteed to have Lightning Rod. There are other Lightning Rod encounters, but they're not easy to get. I guess Lightning Rod Goldeen can sort of be like getting Volt Absorb Lantern and Emerald Kaizo. You can definitely still beat Elisa without it, which is what I did in this video, but it's going to be a lot harder, and you're going to need a lot of proper strategy and good encounters. Thankfully, I had some good encounters. If you have Blaziken and you pick that as your starter, Blaziken with Speed Boost can one-shot like the majority of our team if you have like Hazard setup. But I did not have that either. So I had to come up with a completely different strategy. Beat Elisa without Lightning Rod. thankfully I do have Swift Swim, so I am able to play hyper offensively, and I can take advantage of her leads. She has Plusle Minun, but Minun is the main damage dealer, and Plusle is like some kind of defensive support set, and its only attacking move is Discharge. So if I keep the Plusle up, I can effectively just focus Favret on the other side. So this will need a very good strategy to win. Without Lightning Rod, if you do have Lightning Rod, you can just like abuse the AI really easily. But what I did was I led up with Quagsire and Seaking, and yes, definitely take this as some advice if you're doing this yourself and you're at this point in your own run and you don't have a Lightning Rod strategy. This could work. It's really good, just like an Emerald Kaizo, to have a water type that baits electric moves. I use Seaking, and I use this purely to bait Thunderbolt from the Minun, which will one-shot, but obviously I'll use Protect. This turn will give me time to set up Rain on Quagsire. This turn will give me time to start doing stuff with Quagsire, so I could put Minun to sleep with Yawn. Then on the next turn, because I'm baiting Thunderbolt, there's nothing stopping Swampert from coming in. Minun's only other attacking move is Scald, so you do not want to get burnt from that. So make sure you play around that, but because it's asleep, that's not even an issue. Also, make sure you have Lumberries. Now what I can do, that the Minun is asleep, the Plusle literally cannot touch me, so I'm free to set up Rain Dance, and now my Swampert is going to be very powerful, and it's going to outspeed everything on this team apart from Electrode. So once I do that, I can basically swap out my Quagsire for Swift Swim or Maldo, and now my Swampert and Armaldo can basically outspeed everything on Elisa's team. And yes, Electrode is faster, but it is incredibly frail in this game, and it has Focus Sash, so I can use Aqua Jet on Swampert to just break its sash, deal a lot of damage, then Armaldo can just finish it off. Even Magnezone, which has Sturdy by the way, and Levitate, so Magnezone is kind of scary. We can just double attack it and destroy it. Rain makes Swampert very, very potent. The only way the strategy could backfire is that Plusle with Thunder Wave and Prankster can paralyze your Armaldo. Now, it does have Lumberry, but if it gets paralyzed again, that could be really bad. Pidgeot is really scary, and yes, I know there's going to be comments, why is Pidgeot an Electric-type gym leader? Look at the change docs and you will see why. But Pidgeot is pretty scary, and it needs 2 hits to go down. Unluckily, Armaldo does get paralyzed by Prankster Thunder Wave, which is really bad. However, I never actually knew this, but even if I get paralyzed, the turn order of who attacks first in a turn does not change in mid-turn, so if Armaldo is the fastest thing on the field because of Swift Swim, it's still the fastest thing in the field, and the paralysis will only slow me down next turn, so I don't get fully paralyzed, and I can still double attack the Pidgeot and take it down. Actually, the Pidgeot just goes down to 1 rock move from Armaldo, which didn't even matter anyways. And at this point, the battle is basically over. It's just Plusle and Manectric, and Manectric gets walled out by a lot of things in my team. It's only got like Aura Sphere and Thunderbolt. So the strategy actually worked. There definitely were like 1 or 2 points when things could have gone wrong, like had Armaldo gotten fully paralyzed or had the Plusle behaved in a way that I didn't expect. This fight could have gone really wrong, but thankfully it didn't, so that was really nice. This just goes to show that even without Blaziken and even without Lightning Rod Seaking, you could definitely come up with some creative strategies to beat Elisa. So moving on, the level cap goes up by 14 levels, which is pretty big, so you can really over-level the next Charon fight. One thing I will say about the first half of the game is that the game is very generous when it comes to level cap. XP management is very easy, so don't be afraid to just gain a lot of levels. You could even get some mons close to the next level cap if you know you're not going to be using it. But the next Charon fight is really easy, like you shouldn't have that much issue because you can over-level it so much. He only has 5 mons and you can just pivot really well. Snorlax can be a bit scary because it uses Curse, so you could try to Toxic it if you have it, or a strong fighting type could just smack it in 1 hit. Then Tyranitar can be quite scary, but Kingler kind of just walls it, which is really funny. And yeah, same with Sceptile, that's not really that much of an issue. So with that done, there's like literally only 2 battles in cold storage, then all the plasma grunts, then Driftveil Gym, which can be a little bit hard, but it's not too many battles. Then we can go straight to Clay. Now, Clay can be tricky, but there's definitely ways you can abuse them. Remember that in this game, Clay's entire gym has perma-sand. This is like some Emerald Kaizo territory, and his team is very strong. He's got Legendary in his team, he's got Regirock. It's pretty crazy. However, this time I did find a pretty cheesy strategy. I did have to dodge maybe 1 crit in this fight because of a misplay and the AI not behaving as I expected, but this is actually very doable. So what my strategy to beat Clay was, and I know if you have Blaziken with speed boost, you can actually sweep this gym quite easily, but I did not have that. So I lead off with the Yanmega, right? And I just use U-turn on Tyranitar. So Yanmega can take the Intimidate, then chip down the Tyranitar. This will bait out a rock move for sure, as it will see kill, allowing Flygon to come in safely. Flygon with Choice Scarf can just take out the Tyranitar pretty easily. And the really good thing about this is that Flygon, it now has 600 base stat total, so it's pretty damn strong. This baits out Dugtrio, which has Arena Trap. You want to get this Dugtrio out of the way. This thing is really annoying with Arena Trap. And the best thing is, Dugtrio, it uses Ice Shard. It's Choice Banded. And Ice Shard is its only real move it can use against me. And because I'm Levitate, I could just ignore the Arena Trap. So I just lock it into Ice Shard, go into Tentacruel, and now I can literally just do whatever I want. Like, Dugtrio is barely going to touch my Tentacruel, so I can use TM Hail to get rid of the sand. Then I can set up 2 layers of Togetic Spikes. Then I can just KO the Dugtrio. So not only have I taken out the really annoying Mon on Clay's team, I've also gotten rid of his advantageous weather. And I've also set up Togetic Spikes, which allows me to stall out a lot of his walls, which can be quite hard to take out. But at this point, the battle is definitely under my control. This Aggron that comes out next is actually a pretty annoying Mon to handle. It's got Rock Head and Head Smash, which is very powerful. Even against resisted Mons, Head Smash, you do not want to take a crit from that. It's also got Focus Sash plus Metal Burst, so you can't just attack it from full health, because it could just take the hit, then essentially reverse Uno counter you, which you do not want. You're going to have to break the Focus Sash in some way. The really annoying thing also is that Claydol does not get Earth Power until level 59, and the level cap is 58, which is really annoying. Otherwise this would have been a lot easier. I essentially had to PP stall the Aggron, which is what I did. I PP stalled it out of Head Smash, then once it runs out of Head Smash, it can't really do anything to Claydol. Hell, even my really high defense Kingler takes a lot of damage from resisted Head Smash. I can switch it in, then bait out another move to go back into Claydol and use Protect, and once I bait out 5 Head Smashes, it can't really do that much. Then at that point I could just use Rest and just start chipping down the Aggron slowly, so I'm playing around the Metal Burst and take that out. It's still kind of sussy. The Aggron is not to be taken lightly. It is very powerful. I do think it's a pretty cool set, to be honest. Armaldo is another powerhouse. This thing has Battle Armor, but its moveset is Aqua Tail, Power Whip, and I think Stone Edge and Exeter. So it can hit a lot of things really hard. It's got really good coverage. Kingler can sort of wall it. Sort of. Kingler is like the only thing that can reliably take a hit from this. The good thing is that because Armaldo is toxic and it's got Life Orb and I've got Protect, I can sort of like stall out a lot of its HP. Now here, at the very least, because of double Toxic Spikes and Life Orb, it's only a matter of time before Armaldo goes down, so though I offensively can't do that much to it, because Kingler will get outsped, all I need to do is just stall it out for a few more turns. So I know it's going to use Power Whip because that's the only move that sees kill here. So I switch in Yanmega, which also works really well in this battle as a pivot, which will take obviously no damage from Power Whip. Then use Protect and U-turn, and you'll just take it out that way. Now the next Mon is Sudowoodo, and this thing is actually a Grass Rock type with Head Smash in Wood Hammer. And it's also got Cosmic Power. This thing is just a menace if it goes off. That's why you really want Toggle Spikes. Toggle Spikes will just KO it eventually, but this thing is really hard to handle. Now, I know, obviously, this thing is going to use a rock move against Yanmega, so I need to switch into something that can take that really well. I can definitely take advantage of, like, protecting U-turn and get some chip damage. Then I could just U-turn into, like, for example, Quagsire or Flygon. I go into Quagsire here, and I know it's going to go for a grass move, so I go back into Yanmega to stall it out some more, then protect again to stall it out with even more Toxic, then U-turn to finish it off. The best thing about this play that I made here is that I was able to KO the Sudowoodo with the U-turn before it could attack. That was the second last Mon. He's only got one more left, which is Ace. But because the U-turn got the KO, I can just switch in my final counter for the Regirock safely and just beat it 1v1. This Flygon with his mutual buff stats, basically pseudo legendary, can just take out the Regirock 1v1. I think it's really weird how, like, this Regirock, it goes for Rock Wrecker. Even though Superpower was a higher damaging move, I really don't understand that. Fortunately, I highly doubt I was dead to crit either way. But yeah, the AI definitely threw this. That was kind of weird. But at least the battle against Clay was over. There were 1 or 2 points, I think against the Aggron, where it used like Head Smash, even though Superpower against Kingler was a better move choice. Keep that in mind, there are 1 or 2 points in this game where the AI will just make some really weird play. There are some times in this game when the AI will use a move choice that you will never expect them to do, and you will actually lose them on for it, so that is something to be very careful of, but thankfully I didn't get psyched by it. So next up is, what's this? Another rival battle? I've only had like, what, 6 or 7 at this point, but oh well. The one noteworthy thing is that now that we are approaching late game, we're not able to over level as much as we were before, because the level caps, they're not going up by as much as before, and XP management can be a little bit annoying now because there are a lot more trainers before Skyla, but it's still okay. Thankfully this Bianca battle isn't that hard. I mean, when I say it's not that hard, it's still harder than most of the stuff you will see in Blaze Black and Volt White and such. But Bianca is basically the same team as before, with like a few move changes, and she has a Salamence added on top of it. This is still pretty easy to handle. Banette I can beat by the same ways before. Intimidate it, then go into Kingler and just wall it and beat it really easily. It likes to use Phantom Force a lot, which just gives you a free turn to just do whatever you want. It's kind of funny. Cordelia, I know it's going to use Giga Drain, so I just switch in Blaziken, by the way, and yes, this run I encountered a Blaziken in Route 16, like the route where you go right from Nimbasa. I got a Wild Torchic, by the way, which is really funny. The irony of getting a Torchic in a run where I did not pick Torchic. Unfortunately, this Blaziken is not Speed Boost. Now, if Blaziken was Speed Boost, this would have just tore up the game. But despite not having Blaziken, it's still putting a lot of work, by the way. It was Lonely Nature, and it was really strong. So I'm really glad I got this. It just one-shots Cordelia, which is a pretty bulky mon, especially in this game with its buff. So that's pretty good. Bianca does have a Salamence this fight, which is usually very scary, but because Steel types are so OP in Gen 5, Salamence just cannot do anything to Kingler. It did have the Fire Fang for Steel coverage, but Kingler's Water type, it does not care. It's got Protecting Leftovers and Shell Armor, and it's even got Rest, so it can just do whatever the hell it wants with -1 Salamence. The AI ends up using Hydro Pump because that's his highest damaging move. That's when you know the Salamence is just fucked, by the way. After that, the rest of the battle is pretty easy. Apart from this one bit here, Bianca does send in her own Blaziken, and I did underestimate its power. It was able to KO my Gyarados with a crit. I didn't think it would, but Swords Dance made it just strong enough to where my Gyarados would have been dead to crit. Thankfully, that did not happen. So yeah, that was another crit that I had to dodge. I could have probably played around it, and I was actually under-leveled from Bianca, so... but oh well, mistakes like these happen. But after Blaziken goes down, you basically just win. Like, Meganium can just get ganged up on by the rest of my team, and you beat it easily. U-turn does a lot of damage to it. which is pretty neat. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You might have noticed that we're actually approaching the end of this video, or there's not that long to go, so you must be wondering, Nuzlocke Enjoyer, what happened? Well, we're going to find out. Go through Charge Zone, and a lot of the trainers here, particularly the Plasma Grunts, were actually really scary. I had to dodge like 1 or 2 crits there, and there was one time when a Shadow Tag Gengar almost killed my Kingler, which, man, that gave me like a heart attack. But after that, I do make it to the end fine. End's team is pretty strong, however, there are quite a few ways you could potentially set up and beat his team. I didn't even use any like proper setup moves, but there are ways you can kind of get around his mons. They are incredibly powerful, but I came up with some good strategies. So what I did was I led up with a Fortress, which is a really good mon to have, by the way, and it's got sturdy, so it always takes a hit. Set up Spikes, because he's got a Focus Sash Electrode on his team, so definitely make sure that you can break that sash. Then, I know the Pro Pass will use Zap Cannon, as in this game Zap Cannon is like 140 base power move, and it only deals recoil damage now, it's 100% accuracy. So knowing that, I could just switch in Quagsire, yawn the Pro Pass, then set up Rain Dance, then I switch in Swift Swim Seeking, that's at the level cap, with Choice Band, which also got a pretty big buff, and I just go off here and just destroy half his team. Not getting Lightning Rod on Seeking was pretty unfortunate, but this just goes to show that even Swift Swim Seeking can be used. With Spikes, you can one-shot the Pidgeots and the Electrode because you break its sash. It's incredibly powerful, and Choice Band Aqua Tail in the rain just hits very hard. This was Adamant Nature though, even though it only had like 5 attack IVs, but it just goes to show that if you get creative enough, you can find a strategy to get around all these battles. A lot of people do think this battle's quite hard, but I thought it was actually quite easy. The rain does run out just in time for Kingler, and Kingler is really scary because End's Kingler has Sheer Force and Life Orb, and you need to be very careful in that. Waterfall crit hits incredibly hard. Even Gyarados takes a lot of damage, and this is a bulky Gyarados, by the way. It's got Bold Nature. My strategy for Kingler is to just keep pivoting between Kingler and Gyarados. So like it's going to use Hammer Arm on Kingler, so I just switch in Gyarados. Then it's going to use Water Move on Gyarados because its other moves are all resisted or immune, so I go back into Kingler. Keep doing this until Kingler is like pretty low attack for me, intimidates. Then when it's really weak, I can just destroy it with something, probably my own Kingler. Because it's got Shell Armor, it's never at risk of being crit. His penultimate mon is Sableye, and you might be thinking, Sableye isn't a threat. Well, what if I told you that in Vintage White, Sableye is literally one of the top 3 encounters in the entire game, and no, I'm not exaggerating. This thing is an absolute monster. It's got 150 in both defenses with 80 HP. It gets, I think, Prankster and Magic Guard, which are like 2 very, very powerful abilities. You don't want to mess with this thing. Trying to beat Sableye conventionally is a really bad idea. However, I came up with a much better way to just beat it. Almost guaranteed. Have a good steel type, like Fortress, which is bulky. It can take its dual stab really well. Just use Rest. That's it. Just use Rest. Make your mon go to sleep and just wait until the Sableye gets tired of swinging and just runs out of PP. I guess it's kind of like a Simpsons episode where like Homer Simpson becomes a boxer and he basically just sits there and lets the opponents wail on them until they get really tired, then he beats them. I basically do that here, Lel. The Sableye runs out of its attacking moves, then it just keeps spamming Recover, which is really funny. Do play around the fact that Sableye does have Trick Toxicarp, so don't put leftovers on the mon that you're trying to stall out the Sableye with, though that wouldn't really matter that much. And that just means Steel types are even better because they don't even care about Toxicarp. So yeah, just let the Sableye struggle itself to death. It's pretty funny. And the final mon that ends team is Metagross, and yes, I know, Metagross sounds really scary. It's got 600 base stat total, even though 600 base stat total in this meta isn't as crazy as it was in like vanilla games. It just gets pummeled by Kingler. Just like the other 2 pseudo legendaries we fought. he has no neutral move to hit my Kingler. All of his attacks are resisted because Water Steel with Shell Armor is just too good. Kingler is just disgusting. I like how, like, Kingler's really pog this time around. In the vanilla games, it's just garbage. So that's really nice. So yeah, after this, we're really getting to the late game. All we have to do now is clear out Skyla's gym. Then once we beat Skyla, we get a lot of encounters. I did get this Electrode in Chargestone Cave, and it's a very good Electro type for Skyla. It's got Lightning Rods. Skyla is a triple battle. This Electrode will just put in work. The trainers in this game, like the normal trainers, they can be pretty tough, and a lot of them are on boss battle level. Like, there is this one trainer here. I'll actually show you, like, what his team is like, just to give you an idea of how hard the normal trainers can be. Oh yeah, also, one thing to keep in mind while watching this clip is that Electrode in this game is electric steel type. So, that steel typing lets it resist a lot of attacks, like, for example, normal moves. Keep that in mind for this clip. Wink wink. This thing's definitely dead. Yeah, goodbye, Mantine. You could go, what about Route 1 Mantine? Some people actually did come up with the idea of delaying Route 1 for shaky spots. This thing might outspeed. It did outspeed as extreme speed. Don't crit. What? What? No! 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 What? That was the strongest move. Huh? Are you fucking kidding me? A minus defense, but still. That actually crits. How much health was I at? Yep. It ended like that. The run is over. To something so silly that I could have easily played around. Really? I was just being so dumb. I could have literally used like Fortress or Kingler or like Kabutops or like something and just beating that Swellow easily, as it only has dual stab coverage, but no. I misplayed really hard. And it's so frustrating that this ROM is going so well and it lost because of something that was so avoidable. This Swellow was I think the final Mon on the team. No, there was also Jumpluff, which I was able to handle. So yeah, this battle was really no threat. Really. The reason why I lost, well, I won the battle, but the reason why I lost a Mon was because my Electrode got chipped by the Crobat. Now, Electrode has 10 more speed than Crobat, but this Electrode has like 1 speed IV. But it should still outspeed the Crobat. However, as I found out, this is not in the docs by the way, the Electrode ended up being secretly a plus speed nature. So it was able to outspeed my Electrode and damage it, just enough so the Swellow could finish it off with a crit. Now, in case you're wondering about natures, we do not know what natures the mons here. I know what some of the natures are because like I've actually seen myself get outsped by things that usually wouldn't. The natures in this game, they're not mentioned in the docs at all. The natures also, they work just like they do on the Emerald Kaizo AI. The natures on every single mon is random. The natures could just be anything, and they're not documented. Kind of like how Watson's Jolteon on the Emerald Kaizo is Adamant Nature. That was just picked at random. So that is something you have to play around. Random mons can outspeed you, and you will get memed on it sometimes when a mon would survive a hit that should always KO it, but end up being secretly a plus defense nature. Yep. That was one thing that screwed me over. 4th time resisted Brave Bird still dealt a lot of damage because my Electrode was minus defense nature. And yes, the Swellow, it used extreme speed. I forgot that. That was like, I kind of glanced over that trainer in the docs. And I got critical hits. And even though I'm minus defense nature, I do resist it. And after this, I looked at the damage calc. I did the damage calc. And assuming neutral nature on that Swellow, which is like most certainly what it's going to be, there was only a 25% chance that the critical hit killed my Electrode. So, yep, that happened, you know. I got a lot of luck in this run. I'm actually quite lucky that I made it this far, because most people, I've never seen anyone get this far without a death. Like, look at Wolfie playing this game, he gets pummeled quite early. making it this far is quite an accomplishment, and I'm still very happy with this. It's still a good record for the books, you know. And this was quite a blow, though. So yeah, I got unlucky there. I could have easily played around it, but this happens. Fortunately, I did a Skyla battle anyways, because I was so close, why not? And I was like so tilted because Electrode was like going to be the sweeping strategy for this triple battle. But thankfully I was able to find a strategy to beat Skyla pretty easily, deathless anyways. So yeah, at least that worked out. I did continue the Nuzlocke, but it's just a normal Nuzlocke. It was no longer deathless, so keep that in mind. But that being said, I did enjoy the challenge, and I did feel like I learned a lot. If I were to play Vintage White again, I would know a lot more cheese strategies and ways to just name a lot of the boss battles, but yeah. This game is definitely hard, but it's also very fun. I would recommend you try it out. I really think you'll enjoy it. There is a learning curve though, but once you get past that, this game is very fun. But this concludes the 1 death equals reset deathless run. Still a pretty good run. So that's pretty much the video over. Yeah, I'm bummed out over it, but it is what it is, you know. Still pretty fun. Yeah, pick Torchic. Pick Torchic. So this pretty much concludes the video. Stay tuned for more content. I think I'll be making a video review about Vintage Whites where I will really be talking about that game in depth, and I'll be making other videos such as probably Secret Gold, and I might do some other games like Inclement Emerald and such. But I'll see you all next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe and all that stuff, you know. And yeah, this is Nuzlocke Enjoyer signing out.